Can everybody hear me? Oh, good. How many of you have seen FERPA presentation before? Okay, there are a few changes, so I am going to try and point those out as we go through it. FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and it was established in 1974. This act actually puts guidelines for all institutions. It was written for the student to protect their privacy in regards to their educational record. This is a federal law, and that's very important to understand. We have a federal law that says we have to have an institutional policy complying with that act. Recently, we've taken the Health Science Campus FERPA and the main campus FERPA, and we have merged that into one policy, and that is confidentiality of student records, and you can find that on the website. The university must do a few things. We must assure our students that we're going to use the data collected only for intended purposes. We have to inform students that we do have university record systems and what data will be kept on that system. Every fall term, we'll send out a notification to all of our students telling them about FERPA. We have to give students the opportunity to amend their record if they find an error. And we will go through, we will investigate and amend that error. We have to make certain that every employee on the university campus understands that this is a requirement by federal law, and we're going to take this very seriously and protect students' privacy. If a student requests records be made to a third party, sometimes we will ask for written permission before we release that record, simply because they're asking for something that we would consider sensitive, maybe a GPA, their schedule, or a course they have taken. Students must provide written permission for that sensitive information, and I've given you some examples here. This is not an all-inclusive list, but it's a very good list to start with. Information released to the general public is considered directory information. It's not sensitive in nature. It's something you might find on a website, maybe a phone book. However, Department of Education says under FERPA that the students have the right to restrict that information from the general public. Within the guidelines, each institution has to decide what their directory information will be. Each institution may be different, so they have to develop that. Here at the University of Toledo, this is our directory information. It's the student name, the local address, and local phone number. If you're on the system, I&B banner, you're going to see confidentiality up there. You would also see something about the phone numbers if you go to that screen. If it doesn't say local, you cannot release it. If you go to eDirectory and you pull up information, the information you get back will be local information, so you could release that. College, major field of study, class, such as freshman, sophomore. There's no numbers there. University email address. We have a university policy stating that we will communicate with students through our university email address. Dates of attendance, degrees, certificates, and awards received, full-time, part-time enrollment status, the student photograph. That's over at the College of Medicine only. Graduate medical education placement, that's a test score, and that is for MD students only. This is our directory information. This is the only thing we can release without written permission. Students can restrict their information just simply by going to the web and marking their information restricted or confidential. They could come into Rocket Solutions Central, and we will do that for them if they do not have access to the web. When information is restricted, we sometimes have to remind our students that we will release nothing about them to anyone. That means if they call us on the telephone, we're not even going to discuss their record on the phone. It's like they're not even here. Educational records can hide sometimes. So you have to remember that it's directly related to a student, or it's maintained by the university or someone acting for the university, such as the Student Clearinghouse. Our email, it's backed up, maintained by the university. So I've given you some examples here. Educational records are not a sole possession record. That is a personal memory aid note that you've taken down, you've kept for yourself. You're not going to share it with anyone. That's a personal note. Law enforcement records and records maintained for individuals as employees. A student worker, they have the job, the employee, because of their status as being a student. Those records become an educational record. Medical treatment records by means of a medical professional. A student may share that there's a problem with their medical history. That automatically becomes an educational record. Now, these records have rules of their own for respecting privacy, but FERPA is for the educational record. Who's allowed to view a student record? School officials. School officials can view a record, however, there has to be a legitimate educational need to review that record. That need is you have to have that information to do your professional job. Faculty and staff members may review that record. However, it has to be academic or administrative before you can review it. It is not legal for anyone on our campus, regardless of your position, to view an educational record for non-educational purposes. That is considered a violation under FERPA, and we can be fined by the Department of Education. They could actually pull all of our federal funding. That is a lot of money. So we have to be careful. Faculty members have to be careful when they notify students about the grade. You cannot post a grade with the student name, the student number, ID number, or a social security number alongside that grade. That's strictly forbidden under FERPA. That is when our rocket number is a protected number. Yes, I could put a rocket number in an email, but I cannot post that rocket number next to a grade. So when posting grades, you have to be careful. You're never going to use the ID numbers, of course. You wouldn't post in alphabetical order. If you have 4 people in the class, I wouldn't suggest you post any grades because 3 of them are going to be friends. Never leave graded exams for people to pick up or thumb through on your desk. Secure your websites and email. No notification should go through email. Even if we're using the university email account, if someone actually were to get that information, we are held responsible. We have to protect sensitive information in our offices. So you have to make sure that you're storing that information, you're closing your office doors, you're locking up file cabinets. Never anything through email. What about parents? Do they have the right to review the records? What do you think? Yes or no? No. Okay. Several years ago, the Department of Education amended FERPA, and we have the option to allow access. However, thank God, they have given us permission and guidelines to follow to release that information. When a student reaches the magical age of 18 or begins attending a post-secondary institution, we could have 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds here. All of those FERPA rights transfer from the parent to the student. Parents may obtain directory information at the discretion of the institution. Yes, we give out directory information, so parents could get that. Parents may obtain non-directory information, the sensitive information I was talking about, grades, GPA, schedules. at the discretion of the institution, but only after we have made the determination and verified that student is a dependent declared on their IRS tax forms. That's until the age of 24. Parents may also obtain non-directory information just by supplying a note saying, yes, you can tell mom and dad this information. When that happens, I take that note and I ask the parent, when would you like to come back? Let's schedule an appointment. What information are you looking for? And then I will personally contact that student because I want to make sure that student actually signed that note. I've been here 16 years and I've only had to give up information one time. Normally, when I call that student, they had no idea mom and dad wanted a transcript or their grades, and they talk with mom and dad. They log into the system. They show them that information. You can't discuss the circumstances surrounding that student, but you can direct them and help them and guide them to the add-drop policies, billing procedures, or disciplinary process. If you do not know about those things, send them to the office that will. Students have rights too. Students have the right to review their educational record, inspect that record. However, we can take up to 45 days before we actually give them that access. I'm not trying to hide anything. It's that I have to go find that information. It could be advisor that has the folder pulled and it's on their desk. It could be in archives. So I have to have the time to be able to find that. Former students have the same rights under FERPA as presently enrolled, and deceased students have no FERPA rights. However, if I get a request for a student that has been deceased and they want that educational information, I always find out why they need that and what the relationship is. Now, this is a part that has changed. Individuals are not considered a student until he or she has registered for and attends the first class. Individuals who are denied admission to the university do not have the right to review their denied application. They are not students yet. We've had some problems with terrorist crimes here in the United States, and that did affect the U.S. Patriot Act of 2001. Generally, what was happening is someone would come into my office with a list of students they would like information about. I would take that list and I would contact each and every student, and I would tell them, someone has made a request and I am going to release it. However, that's the part that has changed. Now if someone comes into the registrar's office and asks for information about a student, and they're investigating a terrorist crime, I can release that information without the consent or the knowledge of the student or the parent. However, it has to be an ex parte order or subpoena or court order before I will do that. There is one exception. This is very important to everyone on our campus, and that is health and safety. If someone comes in and they need information under an emergency situation, we are to protect everyone on this campus. We will give up that information, and the Department of Education will stand behind us without question. Things to remember, FERPA can be a little complex, so the best thing to do is ask yourself, would I want this information released about me? Directory information is the only information we're going to release. When a student reaches the age of 18, all of those FERPA rights transfer. And check the confidentiality status of every student. How do I do that? If you have access to the portal, you're going to see that the student is restricted or confidential. If you go to the e-directory, put in that student's name, any information you get back is directory information. If you do not receive any information back, that student is restricted. It's like the student is not even here. You simply say, I'm sorry, I have no information about a student with that name. When it comes to the phone, If you pop in that student's name, nothing comes back, it's restricted. If in doubt, please call the registrar's office. We are happy to help you. If I'm not available, someone in our office in management will be able to talk to you and guide you. Have any questions? Well, thank you very much for coming. Good. Oh, I have a question, yes.
I was actually curious as to whether or not FERPA training from different institutions suffices.
Each institution is different as far as directory information. The guidelines from the Department of Education are all the same across the nation.
Right, so I guess another way of asking my question is, if I was FERPA trained in another institution, is that training transferring here, or do I need to go through the FERPA training here?
No, you need to go through that training on this campus, University of Toledo.